The one that's attached to it says October 6th.
Good afternoon and welcome to our instructional policy meeting. Thank you everyone for being here. It's our first live stream policy meeting, so welcome if you're watching, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kaver to get us started.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to get started with today's agenda. And so when I pull up the agenda, you can see today that the first item on the agenda are the minutes from our previous meeting. And so you could click on those in order to view those. Our last meeting on October 6th was canceled, so therefore we don't have anything to review from that meeting. All right. So there are a few discussion topics on our agenda that will be on the board meeting at our next meeting on November 7th. Thank you. So the first item that I want to bring to your attention is a fine arts grant that we received from GPD in the amount of $10,000, and it's going to be used to support our fine arts and literacy showcase. You will find that on the November 7th agenda. The second item comes under all of our agenda items under business affairs.
I do have a question. Actually,
For the first one?
yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'll go
not a
between each
problem.
one. Let me
and
go
I
back.
don't know if this is a question for you or Mrs. Wilson. I know she's our fine arts director. So this particular grant, I'm assuming it's for district-wide, because I know we have a performing arts school, but it's going to be open to all students. Do you know if we're working like with each art teacher at each school to solicit artwork, or are they working together? So
I don't have the actual logistics yet of how she's going to put that together. To my knowledge, this award is not just for our fine arts or our performing arts building. It is a district-wide grant, but in terms of what she's going to do and how she's going to actually put it together, I don't have those details, but I can make sure we get those for you.
And an invitation to the showcase.
Absolutely. All right. Okay, so under business affairs, the first item that you will see is we reference it as EA, but it's the Education Alternatives Program that we use sometimes, usually with disciplinary measures. EA is a program that our scholars sometimes get sent to as an alternative placement. And so this contract is not to exceed $50,000. That is so that we can just put the PO on file. They actually bill us per month for the students that are there. So we don't just pay out a full $50,000. That's just the amount that we want to make sure that we get put onto the PO, so that then, for instance, the bill that we were looking to, the first one to come in was $3,000. So it's for the number, they bill you by student by the number of days that they are there. And so EA is a program we have used in the past, and this is, again, just getting the money put in place because we know that it'll be above our limit, so we will have to bring it to the board to make sure that we put that PO in place. The second one, and you can stop me or I'll do all three and we can talk about it then. The second one is a service agreement with Goodyear Theater in order for us to have the May Festival of the Arts, the program that we have every year. So this is just the contract for us to have this program there in May of 2023. And then the third item is a contract with Jennings and a service provider called Wild, Peaceful, and Free. And this is a part of their SIP, or their school improvement plan, some programming that they put in place in their particular building around wellness for staff and students. And it's an upcoming program. They are using their supplemental school improvement grant funds in order to do it. Any questions on those three items?
I do. On item 23.2, because I'm looking at state students enrolled in the ECHO program, and I apologize in advance if that's something that I should know about. But I don't. When I think about ECHO, I think about the grade management system that Booktel has.
Right.
And I'm like,
And that's
okay,
not it.
It throws me off.
Right. No, that's just the name of the alternative program at EA that we place the students in specifically. So,
Is that at a location, or is that a program based wherever the students are at?
so EA has various locations across Ohio. So I don't know exactly which location that it is, but there is an actual facility.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And we currently have 6 students, but sometimes they're there for 30 days. They could be there for 15 days, things like that. We started the year with 3 students. We have 6 students now. All right, and our last area is our other agenda items where we're going to have our presentation today on CCAA, on our College and Career Academies of Akron. And so I'm going to turn it over to Marcy Ebright, our director of CCAA, so that she can present, and then we'll go into our other 2 discussion items.
Turn that on. All right, well, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. I just wanted to take some time to go over where we're at right now with College and Career Academies. I know we talk a lot about it, and I wanted to really sort of dive in a lot to our theory of action in College and Career Academies and the work that we're doing in our central office support. So I'll give you some high-level general College and Career Academies, but I want you to know what's sort of happening on the back end of things as we're supporting our principals, our educators, and our scholars out in our schools. So this presentation is going to be around really that data that we're using to inform our feedback to drive action, and making sure that we're getting the resources out to students in an equitable fashion, and to those that need those resources. So we've been having a lot of discussions in the College and Career Academies office around those 2 pieces of our central office support and theory of action. But before we dive into that, you do know that we had our Akron Action. We had our presentation on that the other day. We know that it was really successful. We've been launching, met with some of the ambassador groups. The new classes are starting up right now and getting their training. One of the biggest things I think we heard from the attendees was how thrilled they were with our ambassadors. And without a doubt, we're taking that back to their district. So the kids heard that as they were coming in. But we're also hearing that, that we'll be having future events here. It says hopes to, but we will be having future events with other districts that were here that want to come back and do a deeper dive with us. We had members of the state of Ohio who have been asking, how we can have conversations with other school districts in Ohio around College and Career Academies. So we're excited about that. So what's going on in our transformation work? Of course, in our high schools, we're just deepening that inquiry-based learning across all the curriculum, continuing to grow those partnerships. We're in year 2 of implementation in the middle schools, bringing on the 7th grade Academy in Action, growing our nonprofit partnerships and deepening the work there. And in elementary, we're in the process of working through that master planning document through the tactical teams, looking for that forward NGL designation soon, and your board approval should see that coming after winter break, early spring. And of course, we have, the new Academies and Pathways document is out for this year with all of our named Academy partners in there. And we are looking soon to get that last named Academy partner over there at North, which is interesting because they started the whole thing and they'll be rounding us out. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question. Can we get that updated copy? Because I have a really old one.
Sure.
I'd love to have
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get that to you. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks.
So in the Department of College and Career Academies, we now have 3 sort of sub-departments or arms that's helping this work move through. And I'm going to start with, in each part of this presentation, just giving you a little update about what they're doing, especially when it comes to their work in the lens of equity. But if you think of CTE, we hear CTE a lot, right? That is our Career Technical Education arm of College and Career Academy. There are 4 mighty warriors and a lot of support staff that is in that group that make sure that our CTE teachers who do all the courses in the buildings have the curriculum. So think teaching and learning, but CTE land, right? So they're making sure that they have all the materials, resources, things they need to do their nursing labs, things they need to do their veterinary labs, their machining labs, whatever it might be, all the equipment that goes into the classrooms, plus the curriculum. We also have a wing that's our business engagement wing, and that's the group that works with all the academy coaches and making sure that all of the schools have, and the high schools and middle schools have that strong business engagement. You know, there's, I think, 261 partners servicing 320-something different ways in our buildings. Another, I think we're up to 79 in our middle schools right now, nonprofit partners. So they're doing a lot of work moving kids out into those field experiences and are bringing it into the classroom. And then we have a brand new department or wing of College and Career Academies. It's not so new, but it's firming up now, and that's called our expanded learning. So I'll talk about each of those just a little bit. The CTE report card is part of all of our work, but the Department of Career Technical Education, so that wing really pays attention to all the pieces and parts that are happening with our CTE report card. We could spend a lot of time just sort of diving into this, but we've had some really great successes looking at our post-secondary outcomes and our career and post-secondary readiness and our graduation rate. So students what that basically is telling you, students who stay with us and maintain with us and complete all of our pathway courses graduate at a higher rate than those who do not. So you might notice that percentage looks different than the graduation rate you hear a lot with our general graduation rate. So we know that engagement is really important. We have work to do around our achievement levels. We have 98% of our students all taking their web exams, but what we don't always get is some of the retake opportunities that we do with the OSTs. So I might not have been successful the first time around, but I need to get in there and retake it, and the second time I do better, and I do a better score. So we're working through structures to make sure that all of our students not only get that first attempt, but kids who need the second attempt also get it, so that we can demonstrate what they've learned over time.
How many times can they take it?
That's a good question. I'll have to look it up. I think as long as as long as they're enrolled with us and they have the window open, that they can retake it during those windows. So what the CTE wing handles all of these things. So when we talk about the credentialing, that web exam testing, implementing the CCA strategies when it comes to career technical education, the staffing, the curriculum, all those pieces up on the screen, that team helps organize. But I pulled out this data on the 25th, and every week we load how many credentials students have earned. And what I want to draw your attention to, if you can see way over there on the far, it's kind of fuzzy up on the screen. But if you notice between our black students and white students, we have all but eliminated the gap in attainment for credentialing, and that's our seniors this year. And it shows across the board when you look at how our students are attaining and our ratio of students in our subgroups, the gaps are almost eliminated or exceeded for those groups, which is a pretty exciting way to look at that data up there. Our coordinator for that work is Nate Ruyan. We've probably seen Nate in here talking before, so he helps make sure all this keeps moving smoothly and keeps the data, keeps our staffing and curriculum all together. They've set a goal, and we've set a goal in the district, and the CTE department helps make sure that this goal is attained, and that is to make sure that all of our students are earning the Ohio Means Job Seal. So not just pockets of students or those who just might have different people advocating for them to get it done, that we're making sure that we are putting systems and structures in place that every student is going to attain that prior to graduation. So the second arm of College and Career Academies is this whole business engagement piece that we were talking about earlier, and you can see all of that work that they do. And that coordinator is Beth Winter. Beth's been looking really closely at the different types of pathway partners and making sure that we have access across the board and the types of opportunities that kids are being presented with are equitable, and that the different capacity that some partners might have to take on kids. So we might have a lot of partners that want to come into the classroom and visit with classrooms at one site or in a middle school, and then another school where they just want kids to come out. So how do we make sure that we're making a balance of push in and pull out sort of experiences for students, because we know both of those things are valuable. So we're looking carefully at all of that. Oops. And just some stats and numbers for you where we're at this year, and talked about that 15th Academy partner to be named soon. The number of partners that we have serving students, and the 63 was the ending of last year when I talked with Darlene this morning. She is at 79 at the middle school, so she's brought on another 16 since the school year has started. And remember, those are all aligned to things that students say that they enjoy or are passionate about or have an interest in. So they just finished the new survey for our sixth graders coming in to sort of realign some of our partners to what their passions and interests might be too. We have our sister colleges and all those guaranteed experiences of those industry field trips. Again, just sort of being careful, looking at those, making sure that we're not missing anything that would make sure that all the students are getting the access and the opportunities that we want them to have. Our new department, the little baby wing besides CCAA is what we're calling our expanded learning, or the out-of-school time part. So, you know, I think there's a presentation from Mr. Lichty coming up at the next board meeting around sort of summarizing all the data from last summer. And this wing was moved into College and Career Academies, and here's some of the things that they're taking on. Akron After School, which is an established program we've had for a long time in APS 22 plus years, who does before school and after school programming, has launched and has it ready and up in all of our elementaries right now. The summer school programming and the elementary essential experiences. Looking at those experiences and knowing that we want to build on all those things that are giving kids experiences in and out of the classroom, just like we do with our business engagement pieces, it made sense to have it here. Plus, we can deepen those competencies of an elementary scholar, and we can deepen those career connections across experiences. We've added secondary, due to ESSER funding, we've been able to add sort of this secondary expansion. So now we've got some Akron after-school programming going on in our middle schools and high schools and being able to direct that funding there. We're working with an out-of-school time network across the city of Akron, which is super exciting because it'll be a place where every student, every scholar inside Akron will be able to see what's happening across all the different city network. So that work is in design phase right now, and our CCAA team is working with the city and its designees to make that piece happen. And as it's things that are moving kids out into the community, we're moving that work-based learning opportunities in high school as part of just that continued expansion. So if you think of any opportunities kids might take advantage of this summer, well, here's some that will pay you and you can join and you can be part of, and here's the criteria to get involved in it. So it'll feel like a whole cohesive package for the students. So we're really happy about having this particular part under the CCAA wing. And Desiree Bolden is one of the coordinators, and Tiffany Lundy is brand new, and she is the other coordinator. So they've sort of, she's taken on really that high school, out of school time piece for the work-based learning, internships, all those pieces that could happen throughout the summer or after school. couple updates there. So the Akron After School is right now, just started, well, just a couple weeks ago here in all 28 elementary schools, and it's going to run through December, and then it restarts again in February. We do have locations that have morning programs as well, morning clubs and programs going. They opt into that if they feel like their kids can benefit from it. There are site coordinators at all of those schools that make sure all the programming clubs run after school, kids get home safely, all those pieces. And then we have 75 before and after school programs now running in the secondary. And those are getting more every day. It seems like they're getting a new request to start up a new program. Again, we're looking at all of these to making, especially in the secondary, making sure that schools are getting access. So, because this can a lot of time be teacher driven. You know, a teacher has an idea and they want to run a club, and that's fantastic. But if all those teachers with all those ideas are at one location, then what do we do for other schools that maybe just don't have the staffing to do it, or the time in their day to add another program? So we're looking carefully at where those are falling. And all of our essential experiences are now in every grade level, pre-K, kindergarten through 5th grade. And we were able to add on, this is our second cohort year. So GAR Foundation is funding those for an additional 3 years. So they just finished their first cohort of 3. So next year by the time we get through this, we will have had all kids will have gone through an essential experience. Some other things we're considering, I just want to talk about that work-based learning a little bit more. So we're just working on refining systems and processes that are in place so that we make sure that we have the greatest access for students to take advantage of this. Looking at how we're going to provide a menu of out-of-school time work-based learning experiences with our community and business partners, and to help us increase that post-secondary placement. We want to make sure that those work-based learning pieces are aligned to their interests. We're removing as many barriers as possible. So you'll see a lot of that coming through board requests as we sort of find opportunities where we can remove transportation, food, whatever it might be, clothing, things that kids might need in order to be successful in those environments if we have them out working. And of course, leveraging our partners in our pathways. Do you have any questions? All right. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, we have 2 more items. I'm going to hold this up that we're going to talk about today. The first one has to do with new tech, but I'm going to first ask Ms. Director any questions that you had. So it's an agenda item that you wanted to place on here for a discussion about Bookdale. You want to give context?
I think the idea is to get to a point where Bookdale either embraces new tech or the College and Career Academy model, and instead of sort of floundering in this in between, not really one, not really the other, so that we could have a clear picture of where it's going. Is that about sum it up, Diana?
I think Dr. Cameron wanted to address first, right?
Yeah, so basically, that's our goal also. And so we know that when I came in, I think my first IP meeting, that was one of the areas of discussion or topics of discussion. And so we just said that we would use this year to kind of finalize that process, try to, we're still currently under the new tech model currently. And we want to use this school year to kind of just see how it goes and definitely evaluate. And then hopefully at the end of this year, make a decision in regards to, like you said, which way are we going? Which way are we going to continue to go? Because, yes, we do have college and career academies, as you know, wall to wall in the whole district. But with Bookdale, we also are trying to follow the new tech model. And it sounds like we need closure for everyone. And so, but we haven't totally made the decision yet.
I know at one of our instructional policy meetings, Superintendent Fowler-Mack said that this fall, they were going to look at some things, and after the fall would make some decisions. And I wondered if you could maybe delineate some of the things they were looking at and what kinds of conclusions may or may not have been drawn thus far.
Okay, do you want to add some?
Yeah. So to that point, the criteria that we looked at was really the middle school implementation. As you know, Bookdale has grades 6 through 12, and with the wall-to-wall that was in grades 9 through 12, and we had also had some focus groups that had also provided some additional input over the course of 2 years ago. So many of the items that the superintendent wanted us to look at was what were some of those fundamental elements once we were able to capture the voice of the community. The second part of it was really looking at capturing the insights of the students who were accessing new tech throughout that process. We've done that, and it'd be premature for us to give all of the results, but we did partner with a company known as Transcend to really capture the voice of our students and what they were looking to experience and how well we were able to deliver on those elements. The last and final part that we were looking at was, Marcy mentioned with the implementation at the middle school level with what we were looking at from our trailblazers and how we look at how we transform learning, how we transform key partnerships, and then the last portion of that is how do we transform the culture in our buildings. And we were looking at similarities and differences between both transformational models' approach to that. And then the last and final element was our ability to support the teachers through this process. As you guys know, there's specialty schools that exist within the framework of college and career academies in many of our specialty schools. And the question became, how would New Tech's model hold up as its own independent? Could it, in fact, do that? And could we support it in the same way in terms of equity as other schools throughout the district and the staff who are also there? So there's some key elements that we wanted to really look at, and we kind of stumbled across one with the naming convention of ECHO. One of the key requirements for New Tech was that the student management model has to be its own separate model, and supporting staff through all transitions, hiring and supporting new staff, onboarding new staff, timelines to get new staff in our system to get them with solid footing as they transitioned into the new year, when 99% of the district is looking at least at the secondary level, for an implementation of New Tech. So those were the areas that had already raised some major concerns once we went with the board-adopted master plan at the secondary level. And then when we looked at our master plan at the middle school level, really taking a hard look at that duplication and making sure that our staff didn't have to operate two separate systems. So yes, the superintendent gave that timeline of the fall to really take an in-depth look at it. We just received our data back from many of our students as it looks at 10 essential leaps that we should be looking at for transformation of teaching and learning, transformation of culture. The last one that it wouldn't really address was that last and final element of key partnerships that really help us move the work forward. So those were the pieces and parts that we wanted to really take a hard look at. And then what you would have seen was a continued commitment throughout that process through the June board recommendation to continue our efforts with New Tech, but also do so with an opportunity to really assess, learn a little bit more, and then look at longevity moving forward, because resources are scarce, and we also didn't want to be funding two separate systems that could, in fact, be handled under one. So those were the areas that led to the basis of looking at it, and then what were some of those key elements that we were looking to get some additional insight on.
And so this is not meant to embarrass anybody, but I know a little over a year ago, that whole process that we went through, and I thought it was staff and students there and community. And so is that kind of like erased now? Because it seemed at that point, I thought there was a consensus at that time. And I know there's been a few changes, in the administration there at the school, but I guess I'm wondering, because that was a lot of work that went into that. So is that just starting fresh?
No, I want to lift that up, because as I mentioned, a portion of that assessment was to really capture the voice of the community at Bookdale. We had done so in those 3 focus meetings when we had consulted with Coaching to Lead, and we went through a very deep dive into those key elements. The difference, though, was it's not only capturing what they wanted, but who and how do we deliver that? And the big question is, New Tech has a transformational model to ensure that we were able to deliver what the community wanted. So the goal in that unpacking was to make sure we didn't do it with a model in hand, but really what makes 1040 or Bookdale essential, and what was the community asking for from the school in which we were trying to create. And then the other portion of it was how many of those key elements also were embedded in the College and Career Academy model. So it's not that those are lost, it's just a matter of which one of our transformational models will move us one step closer towards that direction. So yes, we did take a deep dive in discussion, but then the other element that we didn't have at that moment was a research-based opportunity to really capture many of the students who were accessing it. It was large group. The latest survey that we'll be able to share with you guys, with the board, is the opportunity to look at the results that are captured from the student voice. And I think that when we put all of those elements in play and we say, okay, let's overlay what the community said, what the staff is looking at, what the students are looking at, and how can we move either New Tech forward, or how do we move College and Career Academy forward, and who and how can we give the best support, knowing that our administration is going to have to navigate that and be supported, as well as our staff has to navigate that and be supported. So no, it was never lost. Those elements of those focus groups really came up and really drove and laid the foundation for where our middle school transformation sits currently, and where our College and Career Academy of Akron actually sits. Bookdale was many of the pioneers, both DEM and STEM middle school, because they had what we now call inquiry-based learning. They had a model for how do we design highly engaging work. It's just different vocabulary. Those create issues with how we help train staff to create a common language of how we educate. So it is different. And the question was, can it be different and still be supported in a way that doesn't create kind of that language barrier and learning barrier for our staff who have to navigate it? Because we found, and even through your years of being affiliated with Bookdale, it has always been a very difficult challenge when it is different. When vocabulary is different, and then different timelines to support the work. So we really wanted to take a very hard look, not let the past dictate where we move in the future, but also making sure that the voices of the 1040 community was not lost and it was truly captured. So that still drives the work. We have two models that we believe can get us there. I do think that, there are some that lends itself for being able to be supported given our current landscape.
And I just have to give kudos to the staff over there, like managing both of those models and just trying to, also be accountable to families who ask these different questions. My students are now 31 and 20, and I remember, asking, like, what is it? And it's just, I just want to reiterate, because I also still live in that community, they just want consistency and clear, because they have students in different school districts, who are using HACK. And then, well, why do we have ECHO, and why is it different? And is the middle school and the high school the same or not? It's so many questions. And so, I just, again, historically, I'm like, okay, I just remain patient and hopeful that we'll get to a place where it's clear and consistent. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so definitely we want to get to that place of clarity and closure for everyone. And then, like you said, help with the consistency, particularly for the staff, for sure, in terms of which way are we going and what model are they following. So no answer. No direct answer yet, but definitely it's still on the radar and working on some of that information so that the final decision can be made and implemented and released to everyone.
So is it fair to say that this year is all this information is being looked at And is it fair to say that by the end of this academic year, we should be able to look for some answers?
Yes, that is
Okay.
fair to say.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right. And now another question regarding Bukto, I think, also has to do with, I brought Ms. Teka here just in case, but you had a question about a sister university.
When you showed the slide, and I asked you for the copy of that, and it shows the different high schools and the sister universities they have, and I've wondered often why Bukto doesn't have a sister university, and I'm a little frightened sometimes. I think, what is the implicit message there, right? That these kids don't need a sister university because they're not going to go to university. So I think we really need to have, I thought you were pulling that conversation, because I think it's overdue, right? Is it the only one that doesn't have? An East, Bukto and East. So we need to have this conversation. It's overdue, right?
Sure. Firestone doesn't have a sister either. They have a
Right. Yeah, so I think that Ms. Teka will be able to
Well,
give.
they have a name.
yeah, they have
Yeah, they have a name partner.
Yeah.
So she'll be able to give some more details behind this. But we were actually looking at a sister university for Bukto. Was looking at Cleveland State. And then, I don't know if you're aware, but Cleveland State recently got a new president. And so they've been doing some restructuring. And we're kind of still in conversation, but basically it was we need to wait until they kind of get settled, get their restructuring done, so that we could see if they're a viable partner for us in order to be the sister university. So again, that's not putting Cleveland State in the box as if they are automatically our sister university, but just let you know that was the direction that we were going in. But again, they had changes in their leadership, and they are also doing some restructuring. And so just as recent as maybe August, I believe the superintendent was in conversation with the president of the university. But again, we were not able to move forward and finalize anything until we see what direction they're going in terms of historical analysis, in terms of why they don't have a sister partner. I'll let Rachel speak a little bit.
Sorry. So I want to make sure we're clear out of the gate. We do have university and colleges working with all of our high schools and academies, right? So Kent State's doing some amazing work at Bukto CLC right now. They serve on the Academy Advisory Board. They really helped with going deep into the education professions pathway on what we needed to do to kind of drive enrollment there. University of Akron also partners at Bukto to support their pathways and exploration. So I don't want anyone to have the misperception that we don't have any post-secondary partnerships helping in each of those academies across the city. We have our colleges and universities have been outstanding in working across the city and our high schools to support post-secondary and college access for our students. I will be completely honest in that I had high aspirations for both Bukto and East with some of our larger state universities. So we pretty much spent all of last year recruiting Youngstown State University for East. Maybe a year and a half. I wasn't giving up on that. And so we had probably about 8 or 9 meetings with Youngstown State. And then in this summer, they were unable to be the sister university at ECLC right now. They asked us to come back and see them again in the spring. Similar to what Dr. Kaver mentioned about a lot of transition, President Tressel is retiring and they're getting a new president. And I think they were kind of in that same, I didn't want to commit to this right now, but don't forget about us in the spring kind of thing. So we do have some other opportunities and partnerships for both the two schools with without a sister partnership that we're working. But I just want you to know that there have been about a year and a half of meetings trying to make sure that they were able to meet those obligations. And now with Superintendent Fowler Mack, we're reaching out to Cleveland State. I think we're going to make those things happen within the next 6 to 9 months. But I don't want anyone to have the misperception that we don't have partnerships happening and helping our students get ready for college through our College Access Department as well as through the College and Career Academies.
My question for myself and for anyone who might be listening, so what distinguishes being a sister university versus just being a higher level of education who's helping? As you stated, we're still getting that support at Buchtel and East, but what would be the major difference?
Yes, good question, Ms. Autry. So when you commit to being a sister university for that high school, if you notice the way it's listed on that visual is there at the bottom because they actually support the entire school, 9th through 12th grade. They have an agreement they sign that says we are going to help with specific strategies to build college access for every student in that school, regardless of what academy you're in. So it's a time commitment that's 9th through 12th grade that's all built on college access, making sure that they're supporting that school with FAFSA completion, with college applications, with college ACT prep, right? Also, inquiry-based learning. How are we designing lessons to get kids to be critical thinkers? College writing. They kind of have a litany of things that they commit to, and they actually sign an agreement that says we commit so many hours over so many years for ELIT, per se. I could be a sister partner at ELIT, right? And we have a couple, University of Akron is in a couple different schools, and they're able to meet that commitment. If I'm just helping, per se, like the Buchtel example I gave for that academy partnership, they are a pathway partner, which means they have agreement, but they're only committing to 2 experiences a year. They do much more than that, but it's a smaller commitment of time for that school.
AAA doesn't really, I see, don't have.
So, yeah, right. AAA does not offer any specific pathways, but we do work a lot at AAA is on work-based learning. So making sure our students have employment and they have some job coaching and support. So their partnerships are more, we have specific partners who say, hey, we just want employees, right? Do you have some student? We don't have time right now to commit to, coming in and working with students, but we do have a lot of opportunities for students to work. We connect those partnerships to AAA to get our students that work-based learning opportunity.
Thank you. Okay. No more questions. All right. Thank you so much, and thank you for your responses, both of you. All right. Good evening, Dr. Akbar. Welcome. Well. All right. Last item on the agenda are our updates, so I'm just going to click on each one of those for you all. So first, we have the CCAA update, College and Career Academies, and I'll just pull that up really quickly. And of course, I won't read through all of these, but just wanted to quickly highlight some of the things that are going on in our schools. So we have the DECA trip from North High School, so you can look at those slides and read the information. We have some information here from our Akron in Action symposium or mini conference here, which was an absolute success, and I know many of you participated in that. And then we have something with Buchtel right here, the Huntington Bank Reality Day experience. So that recently took place. And then if you haven't been over to North to see the new wall graphics, you could see some pictures of those. They look really nice inside of the building for all of the academies. And then finally, the Partner Expo with Higher CLC. So again, you can take the opportunity to look at those. The next one is the FRC update, Family Resource Center. And we are actually going to have a meeting on FRCs upcoming here. I believe it'll be in November, but definitely where we want to give an update to the full board about where we are with the fact that, now we have 4 FRCs in our district with our partnership with United Way specifically. But this is some information about the Lift Ride program that we have to take families to appointments and things like that are ran through our FRCs. And then we know that they also have partnerships to help with some financial advice through the FRCs, education for the families. So again, we plan to pretty soon have an update for the entire board on what our numbers look like in terms of the number of families that we've serviced through the ones that we have in existence already. So look for that to come.
I have a question.
Yes.
Comment on the expanded lift. And so I see it's expanded to all APS school sites. So does that mean a student or a family member of a high school student could utilize these services? They would just have to reach out to that specific FRC in their cluster?
Through that phone number. I believe there's a phone number for them for those services.
That's a lot of support offering, right? So that's accessible to students and their families.
Yes. So we'll be excited to share that information with you. Of course, there were some of the services due to COVID did not get off to this great start that we were expecting, but definitely been able to recover and see the numbers going up in those areas this school year so far. Okay. And then this is our Stay in the Game update about the attendance initiative with the Cleveland Browns. So again, looking at Attendance Awareness Month and the things that were going on in September. And we had an opportunity for the Browns versus Steelers game on September 22nd. So I believe there were some people that were selected or nominated to attend the game as a part of that partnership as well. So you can see who was nominated at a few of our buildings, and that was in attendance. And then last but not least, we have an update here from our Office of School Improvement. It's kind of just an update in terms of a new staff member that was a former principal, I believe, and now is a member of the OSI team, and she got her doctorate. So we wanted to let you all know that. Also, most recently, they were in Columbus at the Federal Program Conference, and we had not only participants, but we did have some of our staff members actually presenting as well. So you will see that on there. And then there's just a little update on Project Rise, which I know at the most recent board meeting, you guys already kind of got a presentation on Project Rise as well. So those are our updates.
I also thought it was worth noting the value-added data. I think we had teachers from 25 different schools who showed significant evidence of more growth than expected. So I just think that's worth noting, giving kudos to the teachers in those buildings.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for that. Value-added data has been released for our staff members, and so that information, as you know, will be looked up at also as a part of their evaluations. I was looking to see if I had the rest of the data with me about the specifics of those buildings, but unfortunately I do not. But thank you for mentioning that and acknowledging our staff members, because we are definitely on our way. And the value-added data is basically going back to our report card is what helps us know about that value-added portion when we looked at progress. And so when they are making a year's worth of progress or expected growth, then they fall into a certain category. And we have so many staff members that not only fell into the expected growth area, but we have staff members on the other end as well, some that were more than a year's worth of expected growth. So thank you for acknowledging that, Saltry. Any other comments or questions for the group for today? All right. As always, I thank you all for your for the meeting today. And with that, we are closed. Or do you close out the meeting?
We're done.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think he turned us off. So, sorry.
We're done. We're definitely done.
Will you send us your presentation too, please?
Thank you.
And we'll attach it to the board as you raise it.
Thank you.
Attach it afterwards, but we'll have it on there and on your iPad.